I've seen a lot of people swear by cheap 1080p panels because the price tag looks friendly, only to end up cursing the blur and ghosting when the game finally gets intense. That kind of buyer's remorse is the exact reason I hesitated before hitting add to cart on this LG Ultragear OLED. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The question I kept asking myself was whether paying a premium for a 27-inch OLED with crazy fast refresh rates would actually translate into a smoother, more enjoyable experience, or if I'd just be buying a flashy screen that looks good on paper but falls short in the daily grind. First off, let's talk about the core problem most gamers face when they upgrade: latency. You can spend hours tweaking settings, but if the panel can't keep up, every shot feels delayed. The LG 27GX790B advertises a 0.02 milliseconds gray-to-gray response time, which is essentially the theoretical limit of OLED technology. In real-world play, that means you won't see the typical smearing that even high-refresh IPS panels sometimes produce during fast pans. I tested it with a fast-paced shooter and a racing title, and the motion felt crisp enough that I stopped second-guessing whether a pixel was still transitioning. That kind of instant feedback is what separates a decent monitor from a competitive edge, especially when you're trying to land a headshot or break into a corner. The dual-mode feature switching between a 540Hz QHD mode and a 720Hz HD mode is another piece of the puzzle that can be confusing at first glance. Most people assume higher numbers always mean better, but the truth is a bit more nuanced. In QHD 34401440, you get the full ultra-wide field of view, which is fantastic for immersive RPGs or simulation games where peripheral vision matters. The 540Hz refresh rate in that mode is already beyond what any current GPU can push consistently, but it still gives you a huge headroom for frame time smoothing. The HD 720Hz mode drops the resolution to 19201080, which lets the monitor actually hit that insane 720Hz ceiling if you're using a very high frame rate setup, like a 240 frames per second console or a next-gen PC with a powerful GPU. For most gamers, the sweet spot will be QHD at 540Hz, enough pixels to feel expansive, enough speed to feel buttery. Now, who should actually consider spending on this monitor? If you're a competitive player who lives for twitch reflexes, the combination of OLED's near-instant response and the high refresh rates is a compelling reason to upgrade. The panel's true black capability also means you'll see details in dark scenes that other monitors wash out, which can be a tactical advantage in shooters that hide enemies in shadows. It's also a solid pick for creators who need color accuracy. The 4th-gen primary RGB tandem OLED delivers about 335 nits, which is bright enough for most indoor lighting while still preserving that OLED contrast curve. On the flip side, if you're a casual gamer who mostly plays at 60,120 frames per second, or if you primarily use your screen for office work and occasional media consumption, the price premium starts to look less justified. The OLED panel, while gorgeous, does come with a hidden trade-off: the risk of burn-in if you leave static UI elements on the screen for prolonged periods. LG does include pixel shift and log luminancy adjustment tools, but you still need to be mindful about leaving HUD elements or chat windows static for hours. If you're the type who streams a lot of UI-heavy content or runs a ticker on your desktop, you might want to look at a high-refresh IPS instead. Practical strengths shine through once you plug it into a setup that can actually feed it. The DisplayPort 2.1 input is future-proof. It can handle the full bandwidth needed for the 540Hz QHD mode without compression, which means you won't be fighting signal degradation. The USB-C port adds a convenient single-cable solution for laptops that support DisplayPort alternate mode, making it a nice dock and a monitor for creators on the go. In my own rig, I was able to run the monitor off a single USB-C cable from a laptop, delivering video, audio, and power, which cleaned up my desk dramatically. Where the monitor shows a weakness is in its brightness ceiling. 335 nits is respectable for OLED, but if you have a very bright office or you enjoy gaming with the lights on, you'll notice that highlights can feel a bit muted compared to a high-brightness VA panel. The HDR performance, while decent, won't match a dedicated HDR TV that can push 1000 nits or more. So if HDR cinema-grade visuals are a primary reason for your purchase, you might still want a separate TV or a monitor that specifically targets that niche. Another practical consideration is the ergonomic stand. It offers tilt, but no height adjustment or swivel. For a 27-inch ultra-wide, you'll likely need to add a VESA mount if you want to fine-tune eye level. That extra cost isn't huge, but it's something to keep in mind if you're planning a clean, ergonomic workstation. Let's talk about the price-to-value equation. The headline specs 0.02 ms response, 540 Hz QHD OLED brilliance are enough to command a